And
Let me think. We started.
welcome everyone. We are starting season 5, episode number 5, the Zoom Garden Plot. And in this evening's show, we've got there are no gardening mistakes, only experiments. So we have a couple garden updates. One is from Chad's Common Ground, and the other is from Sarah's Warwick Valley Community Garden. We'll do shimmy time, of course, as usual. We have a few announcements, the Q&A at the end. And with no further ado, we're turning the floor over to Chad.
Thank you. Hope I took better pictures, but we'll see. Welcome everyone. This is a Goro Local Greenville Lake Common Ground Community Garden. This is the entrance. We see we have a beautiful pollinator sign that we got from Sally about potluck. And again, in the front of the garden, and I'll show the size as well, we have all native pollinators, which I know there's Bee Balm, and we got Black Eyed Susan, and a ton of others that I always forget the names of, but Sonia Mason planted them all, and we have Bill Green's amazing soil, and everything is growing quite beautiful. And that little tree in the corner next to our other sign is a plum cherry. No, the other corner. Yes. And we did take some damage in the last storm. A big branch broke off, but in a strange angle. I don't know how that happened, but hopefully that doesn't damage the tree too bad, because it did break off in a not great way. And then Gillian fixed our little planter in front that was rotted, and she redid that. And hopefully soon we're going to have a shelving stuff in the front to share any extra surplus of crops. I should have sent my crop swap announcement, but I didn't do that. Sorry. You could do the next slide. And this is also this is the side of the garden. Again, most of this stuff was all planted on the side that it gets very wet. Again, the reason we got this plot of land is because there was a very high water table, and you can't really build anything on it. But almost everything has survived. I'm surprised, because when it rains, it does get very boggy. And I know we have comfrey, we have mint in a pot over there that we put in there. We have false indigo and asters, and again, all really. And Sonia plants a lot of ferns and ramps. I probably should have taken more close-up pictures, but in the front, yeah, we really have some nice stuff that's really growing in. And the beautiful thing about these perennials is that you see, each year they just take on a new life. They just grow. It's funny, because sometimes they disappear in the winter, and you're like, oh, it's just gone, it's dead. And then just comes from the ground, like erupts, and it's really beautiful to see every year. So this is on the sides. Again, all native pollinators. So you could go to the next slide if you want. And this is also another plum cherry that we're featuring. We have 3 plum cherries that we got from I think Black Creek Farm, from this Eric Schellenberger, something like, I never say his name right. And again, against this fence, we have milkweed, a lot of herbs. I just planted horseradish. I want to put a lot of herbs on this side so people can come and just pick, oregano and parsley and thyme, and because this is obviously all open to the public, so I want to really encourage people to come and take herbs. And then there's our inner hose area, and then it looks not the greatest, but that's a little potato tower we built. Looks like it's growing very well. We just put levels of straw and compost, and put the potatoes around the edges with the eyes facing out, and I must have put about 6 or 7 levels. I just did it on as a whim, but I'll see. I really like it, and like next year, I think I'm going to do a lot more of those, like around, because it doesn't take up much space, and you could really, use the vertical space to grow up, and it looks like everything's growing well. So I'll let you know at the end. So you go to the next slide. And we have a ton of calendula that all came back from the year before. I would say we have now, and I pulled out a bunch. I was trying to be a little more disciplined this year about not letting these other stuff, because again, we, every year we keep growing. We're a shared garden. We're open to everyone. We have no membership fee. So more and more things are starting to come back year after year. So I would say we probably have 200-300 of these calendula, and they're very beautiful and edible and medicinal. So I did pull out and try to repot about 20 or 30, and then I did pull out some, but I also gave in to, I don't have the heart to keep pulling out things that are growing. And then on the opposite side, this is the inside of the garden. On this, we have a lot of more edible perennials. I don't know if you see vining up the gate is grapes that we got from Midsummer Farm. And I have a sunflower, which you can't see. And then I probably have a close-up shot, but I don't know if you can see that spiny thing with the arrow. No, go down. Yeah, that's a cardoon, which is a perennial edible plant that, again, is really coming back this year. It looks like they're about to throw some pretty cool flowers. And that's something that you eat the stalks of it. After a frost, you cut the frost, the stalks, and you can kind of fry them or blanch them, I guess. And along there, we also have Turkish rocket, artichokes I planted. I've never grown an artichoke to full height, but I'm hoping we could do that this year. I'm very excited. And if you go to the next picture, hopefully I took a close up, but knowing me, I probably didn't. And this year, Nicole Hickson donated her beautiful wood trellises. So that makes the garden look a lot nicer. And with the tomatoes this year, we're gonna, as you see, we had these little pulleys and tied up to the tomatoes. So we're gonna see how, hopefully that works well this year, where we just, as the tomatoes grow, we just pull up the string higher.
You don't pull up the string higher.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Gillian yells at me. We will clip onto the pulleys. But they're growing very quickly, and tomatoes appear to be coming very very soon. And in the background, we have two of these towers, and then you see behind it, that's a squash with the kind of grading showing us out. And we have a raised bed where we put various herbs. Yes, and next to it's a bunch of flower. All that stuff is cilantro that I let go to seed in the bed next to it, Michael, if you want to put the arrow one more over. Yes, that's all cilantro that came up from last year. And we got a ton of cilantro, and now we'll have coriander, and see if that self seeds. You can go next photo. Hopefully. And this is our we used some, Estonia gave us some of these are peppers under the gate, under the things that they've grown a lot since this picture. And we have a lot of ground cover, as you see here, is strawberries. And we had a whole little strawberry festival. We invited people to pick strawberries. We had a lot of strawberries. And behind that, you can see the strawberries. And behind the strawberries, I don't know if you could see. No, go to the other picture. Right, in the back, we have asparagus. I don't know if you can see those little ferns. This is just our second year. And in the corner, that's fennel. That's like a giant fennel tree, pretty much, that we started with two small fennel plants, and it got up into this fennel tree. And then next to that, there's a sunflower growing. I don't know if you could see that between the fennel and yes, that's a sunflower. And on the other picture is strawberries, and behind strawberries, we have chives. In the back of that, which all flowered, and we had a really productive chive. A lot of people clipped them already. And in the bed behind that, we're growing squash, but that's starting to come right now. Again, we have those nice trellises donated by Nicole and her husband. And then you can even see the hoop house in the back of that other picture. That I did pull out a lot. Again, I don't have the heart. I pulled out about 20, 30 tomatoes, but now I probably have about 60 tomatoes growing in the hoop house. I don't know if I took a picture, but I just don't have the heart to keep on pulling out stuff. Oh, here we go. As you see, And I have eggplant in front, and soon tomatoes will be dominating the entire hoop house, and it will look like an insane monstrosity, but I just can't. I don't have the heart to pull them out. And then I have a broccoli that came up from last year. That's probably going to bolt in 5 seconds. And we have parsley, but the hoop house was really great for us this year. I grew a lot of seeds in there. You know, brought them over when it was still very cold out, and we started all cool weather stuff. All the tomatoes in there. Peppers, I haven't had greatest luck starting pepper from seed. And so that was a very successful first year of the hoop house. And Gillian just put a new door on today that would it's kind of a spreading, that right now we took the door off altogether, and now we could just, you want to describe it, Gillian?
It's just a magnetic screen door that I took in some and staple gun that basically, but the center is just magnetic, so you push through and it closes behind you.
Yeah, because obviously we're not closing the door for a while. So I'm hoping stuff like eggplant grows well, and that stuff I like a lot of heat. But Gillian built this hoop house as well. You could rent her out if you all want for anything you need fixed around that. I'm just kidding. And the next slide. And there's another one of Gillian's creations, the keyhole bed. It's very, it's 3-4 feet tall. And we filled it with all logs, wood chips, leftover refuse. It took a lot to fill this up, but we filled it with a lot of throwaway stuff. And I don't know if you can see in the middle, there's like a little cage that we drop compost into. I remember we had Leslie had one of these a few years ago, and we put, as you see, the nasturtiums doing really well in there, growing beautifully, and we put some tomato, and I just put some eggplant in there, but that took a lot of soil. Even dropping all the logs and everything, we still took a lot of soil to fill that rest of that up. And then you see we have we have chairs in the back of that, so hopefully people come and have lunch or just relax.
Compost.
Oh, sorry.
Where do you put the scraps? Like if you're gonna, like the banana peels and that kind of stuff, you put them in that cage?
Yeah, you drop them right down there, and you could just drop down some browns on top of it, and it will break down and feed the garden from the bottom.
And then you plant around it?
Oh yeah, that's covered up, but all around that is soil, and again we put a lot of logs, wood chips, straw. I just did stuff to fill it. If that was all soil, that would have been like 4 yards full of soil. So we try to, it's almost like a hugelkultur type of ideology. So it should get more enriched as it breaks down each year. But it will get lower just because it's just like a compost pile would probably fall down. So every year we'll probably have to fill it up with some stuff. But we on our website we have plans on how to build that. And I took decent pictures myself this year, but yeah, basically stuff's going good. We're going to have a lot of tomatoes, a lot of eggplant, peppers, a lot of herbs we put in this year, beans, we put bush beans. And being an open shared garden, I kind of try to be a little more open this year and let people just put some stuff in that. We have a lot of beets. Oh, I didn't take a really good picture. That was stupid of me. There was amazing. The most amazing thing so far in the garden is that the radishes. After they grew these like purple bean pods, and they are delicious. And like we have hundreds of those things. So I've been really loving them. And they taste a little radishy, but much milder. So I don't know what the name of these things are, but they are edible and very good. And I should have included it. I did take a picture that I put on Facebook, but I didn't include it in here, but they're very interesting. So thank you. Any questions or comments? And we have a 3 compost bin system that I probably didn't take a picture of, that we collect food scraps in the farmers market, and we bring them there to use for our food scrap collection. So this year we're much better at being organized. We have a task board, like what you could do when you show up, and we have a volunteer hours where you can log in. We have like a QR code, or you have a book. So, and I am finding people are there, and like people who came last year, I just didn't see them, but now I am noticing when I go to the garden that people are there. So that's encouraging that we're all working together as a community. Thank you.
Before we go on to Sarah's slides, any questions for Chad?
All right. And that, by the way, that's Sarah, everyone, in case you didn't think she really existed. There's a video of Sarah.
Sarah appeared in the picture this time. I think most of you have seen this garden. We're inside the village of Warwick. We are a membership garden. There are approximately, I think there's maybe 35 individuals, but the dues, we count a couple as one payment. So, and we have a lot of couples. But anyway, our garden is in two parts, actually. There's a vegetable garden, which is approximately 50 by 70 feet, and I'm the organizer of the vegetables. And then we have an orchard, which is on the same land. It's all land owned by the community center, but separated by about 20 feet, the two gardens. This is a photo of our garlic, which is actually in the orchard section. And I just showed that. I think I have 3 garlic pictures here. So that's the garlic, and it's about ready to have the scapes. And there we cut off the scapes, and we did a test pull on Sunday. I believe we'll be able to pull the garlic this coming week, and then we'll dry the garlic, and where all that garlic was planted, we'll put in winter squash. And I guess you all know that you cut the scapes off when they first come up. Okay, next. Then this year we got started a little late on the planting because we had 2 major projects that had to be completed this spring. One was we relayed all the insulation. We relayed the drip lines. On the right-hand side, you see those black, yes, those are drip lines. It's an above-ground drip irrigation system. So we put in a new feeder hoses. Those are the tech guys, I call them. They, ran the new hosing, and we dug a new line over to one of the lower beds. So our irrigation system was originally put in 2013. And it served us very well, but the last year or so, it just really wasn't up to par. So that's been all updated. And in that bed with the drip lines are peppers. Planted a lot of peppers.
Wait, sorry to interrupt you for a second. How long do you know how long do the irrigation things usually last? Do you have like 3 years, 2 years, 4 years? Like, do you know?
No, we put this in 2013, and it really only started to seriously fall apart. Actually, the last 2 years I've been complaining that we needed to replace it, but we try to do 1 or 2, I call them capital projects each year, and the orchard's has taken a lot of resources. But last year the drip line just became, we've been fixing it. You can fix it, so to speak, but it was no longer deemed fixable by yours truly because it was leaking everywhere.
So about 10 years. That's a good run, 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like around $200 to put in. So I mean, really, we got our money out of that. And we're hooked up to village water. We pump it over from the community center. We have over there where the guys are working, it's where the pump and all the hoses are hooked up. And then the hoses also, there's a hose dug underground and also goes out to the orchard to irrigate the sweet potato and garlic bed and have water out there when we need water. So some of our people have been into irrigation, thank God. So anyway, there's lots of pepper plants there. And then the bed behind there, we've got more pepper plants in there. And I've put in some flowers, zucchini. a lot of the planting got started late because we had to get these two projects done before we started planting the beds. As you can see, the peppers are coming along nicely. Next. This is where we got our irrigation system from. I put it up because sometimes people want to know. It's a commercial supply house out in Pennsylvania that the Bruderhof told us about when we originally put it in. They have everything. Their prices are really good. Shipping's become expensive, but they don't have any kits. You have to know how to put it together yourself. But if you need to order supplies and have them shipped, they have excellent prices and they sell everything known to mankind. Okay, next. So the reason I'm showing you this is one of the themes this week was lack of rain and heat. And this cloth is called Agribon. And this is something we have used every summer to help protect our greens. Underneath that Agribon are the lettuce, mustard, bok choy, lettuce, lunza, beets, and spinach that were put in very early. And a lot of them, the spinach, I didn't show you there. It's all getting ripped out on Sunday. But this shade cloth, some of the greens, we will be able to keep them producing, like the Swiss chard. And the lettuce will pretty much bolt. But by having it covered up, it keeps the water in and it keeps the beating sun out. That keeps the greens tender through the season. And when we cut our greens, we don't pull the plant until we're ready to replace it. We cut the leaves off or take off a third of the plant. And that way the plant keeps rejuvenating itself. We've been cutting lettuce out of here for over a month now. And then the other side, and then in the fall, what we do is we put that Agribon all the way down to the bottom of the raised bed and weight it down, and that will keep certain crops going way past the first frost. And I'll leave one of these up over the spinach and arugula and kale all winter. And we get some kale and arugula and spinach that come back from the year before. And then the left-hand picture, those are some tomatoes down there that we recently put in. And that tall thing there with the little leaves, ratty looking thing, that's an arugula. This bed had a lot of arugula, and I found that arugula self-seeds very well. So when we pulled arugula out, I left this one plant so it would seed, and then we'll end up with more arugula in another month or so in that bed. And then behind you on the top picture was our first planting of peas up against the fence. We put those in mid-March when we had a warm day, and then the weather turned crummy. So those have started. They didn't do very well, but we've gotten some peas off of there. But we'll go to the next slide. And this is sweet potatoes. So this is out in the orchard, and this is preparing the sweet potato beds. If you've grown sweet potatoes before, we buy the slips, and then you build these mounds, and the slips are placed in the mounds on the top and the sides. And then the other picture, a week ago, once the forecast for the heat wave came out, we hurried and got the straw down. So we put the straw, there's a soaker hose under that straw. And then the straw really helps to protect it from the weeds and keep the moisture in. Next. And here we have this past Sunday, we put the straw down, like I said, last week, because I knew the heat was coming. So this is the first group of tomato plants. There's 2 beds of first tomato plants. And then this last Sunday, we did our first pruning, and we put the cages up. And we always prune our tomatoes. I mean, if you want to talk about pruning tomatoes at some point, we can, but this is, And then I'll probably put in yet more tomatoes. My friend started tomatoes, I started tomatoes. I have more tomatoes floating around my house. Tomatoes are my favorite crop. Okay. And this is the trellis. We had this trellis for many years. The old trellis disintegrated after a while. So one of the holdups this year was one of the members built a new trellis. We were going to fix it, but this person is really good at woodworking and likes to build things. So we got a new trellis, which is great. And you'll see a good stand of peas growing there. And on the other side of the trellis, we have pole beans and cucumbers growing. And then when these peas come out, I'll put in more beans. I think I'm gonna put in some like baby pumpkins and might try some winter squash on this side too. And then the picture on the right is the picture of the pole beans coming up. Next. And then this is a picture over in the orchard. Behind the people on the left, you can see that's where the sweet potato and the garlic bed are. And what we're doing here is we're looking at the peach tree. The peach trees are not doing well. They have a fungal disease. I wrote down some. We have it pretty much diagnosed. It's called fungal gummiosis. And it's I don't know if we're going to have any peach crop this year. We had a lot of peaches last year, but so far we've had Cornell looking at it, and what they've told us is we need to cut back all the branches that have the gummiosis on it. So we'll see what happens. And then on the right are pawpaws. We had a huge pawpaw harvest 2 years ago. Last year we had 3 pawpaws, and this year we're loaded with pawpaws again. So even if the peaches don't happen, we will have pawpaws.
Wait, sorry, how many pawpaw trees do you have?
2.
Okay.
You need 2 pawpaw trees for them to produce fruit. And I don't know what kind they are. This is the orchard where we won all these plants from Edie's Fruit. And no one has the list of what was actually planted there some 12, 13 years ago. But the pawpaws, it took 10 or 11 years before they produced. And then one year we had this huge harvest. And this year they're back again. I don't know. I think that's all the pictures.
You want to come up here? You can come up.
So can you plant winter squash from seed now?
Yes.
You can still plant it, yeah.
Yeah, it's getting late, but I'll still plant them. Because remember, the last few years, we haven't had a killer frost until late October. And you need about 100, 120 days. So it's pushing the envelope, but I'll get winter squash in. I did it last year.
I planted bush beans in the middle of August, and I got a harvest.
Oh yeah, that's just our first planting of beans. I've put in beans in August too, and I've still got a harvest. Same with zucchini. I've got 4 zucchini hills going at the moment. And we always get squash bugs. We have controlled them. We have them fairly well beaten back, but the squash worms, by mid-August, midsummer, the squash are always miserable. So I plant the squash in succession so that we'll have, squash later on. We have one member who, in fact, we didn't have any squash last year. And one of our members hates squash as much as I hate lima beans. So we always kid him and saying that he put a hex on the zucchini.
When's the latest you plant zucchini
Oh,
and still get a crop?
you can get them in early August.
Yeah, okay. Because I mean, honestly, with zucchini, I don't know about you, but it's like the first 2 or 3 weeks when they're producing, they produce and then they just kind of fizzle.
That's what I mean. That's why I put them in. I used to put in a huge bed. Let's remember, we're producing food for 20 plus people. So our goal here is to grow things that you can get a big bang, a lot of harvest out of. You're not going to feed your family on it, but you have to have enough that everyone gets like a nice meal. Or of course, what happens when the beans come in like crazy, one crop will come in like crazy, and then there's more than anybody wants.
Yep.
And if we have extra, then we give it to the food pantry, or people give it to their neighbors. But
Or the crop swap.
we've tried other crops, but things that you don't get a really robust harvest from don't work in this type of garden. You have to get volume.
Yeah. So you don't grow as much variety as far as vegetables. You kind of over the years figured out which ones are going to work and which ones aren't.
Right. What I do is I grow a lot of variety within the type of vegetables. So we probably
Gotcha.
have 10 varieties of tomatoes, 3 or 4
Yep.
varieties of beans, 6 or 7 varieties of peppers. So the actual variety within the group is broad. And we tried eggplant. I tried eggplant for 3 years, and we have flea beetles and they won't go away.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've been here for 13 years, and over the 13 years, I mean, we've tried many, many plants. So it's been
Yeah,
kind of, narrowed down to, and we
What
still
about
try new things.
What about plants like that are so cheap in the store and they're so hard to grow that like cabbage for me? Cabbage is always hard to grow because we have a lot of cabbage moss up in the garden. So like anyone who grows cabbage always has worms in their cabbage. And you go to the store and it's like 90 cents a head. It's like,
Right.
is it really
It's not
worth
worth it, right? Cabbage takes up
No.
so much room, takes so long, and
Yeah, and
right,
then
it's not worth it.
yeah, and then we always get the moss. So like you cut into a head and you got worms. It's like,
No, back in the beginning, we grew cabbage, and it was exactly that problem. And one year I put in a whole August bed of cabbage and cauliflower and kale, and the moths were out of control. So the kale does fine. I gave up on and broccoli I've had limited success with. But cabbage is an absolute hard no. I mean, like, for example, I refuse to grow green peppers. Our peppers are all sorts of interesting varieties. They're but hot peppers and mild peppers, Italian peppers, Cubano peppers, you name it. Lots of peppers, but no green bell peppers. I absolutely refuse to grow a green bell pepper you can buy anywhere for 99 cents a pound.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'm having hit or miss lately with peppers. It's either boom or bust. And this year I'm starting to get something's eating them. I think it's the beetles coming out, either the Japanese or the June beetles. But I went up there just before this and something started munching on it. So I got to get out there with my spinosad or neem oil.
I forgot to mention this last Sunday, we found we have a bed of fingerling potatoes in here. We've never done that in the past, but one of our members, this couple grows like 400 heads of garlic at their home, and they also grow fingerling potatoes. And he always has too many fingerling potatoes, so I put one bed of fingerling potatoes in this year. We did last year, and everyone enjoyed those. And the potato beetles have been out, but this last Sunday, I found Japanese beetles on the grapevines over in the orchard, and I keep forgetting the name of that moth that is killing everything.
Gypsy moth.
I don't know the other one.
The
Lanternfly. The lanternfly.
Oh, the lantern. You mean the Chinese lanternfly?
Spotted lantern.
Yeah, the spotted lanternfly. Yeah.
We didn't see one spotted lanternfly last year, and Sunday we were looking at the grapes to see if the Japanese beetles had arrived, because the Japanese beetles love the grapes, and we found little baby lanternflies on there.
Yeah.
But they were promptly dumped into soapy water and met their.
Are they attacking anything else? Because I know they like fruit. There's a big thing up in New York State. They're trying to prevent it from getting into the Finger Lakes region because they can devastate it.
Right. Right.
But I don't know if they go after vegetables. Do they? I mean, I haven't heard. I guess they'll go after anything, but I don't. know
They
if they,
seem to be more on trees and orchards. And
yeah.
that's where they were, in the orchard.
My daughter went to
These
ESU.
beetles, you know, ugh.
And a couple years ago, this was a couple years ago. They were when I dropped her off in September. They were everywhere you went. You could just walk and squish like 10 at a time. They were
Wow.
everywhere.
Folks, do we have any final questions for Sarah about the community garden before we go on to our shimmy in place?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
No, looks beautiful. Great
It
work.
does look great. Both gardens look great. Chad,
Thank
yours
you.
looks great too, and the pictures were good this time.
Yeah, right? So, sorry, Mark, don't miss your work meeting.
You know what? It was canceled. I was
Oh,
looking.
beautiful.
I
Glad
was
to have
back
you.
and forth. I have two computers open, so I kept back and forth. And for some, they canceled it. They're not going to go ahead. So I'm lucky I get to stay here. But I'm going to shimmy in place for now. So
Yep. Time to shimmy in place, folks. So if we're done shimmying, Mark, it looked like you just looked at your cell phone. You didn't do a real shimmy.
it's between work and all this stuff going on. Sorry, I did a semi shimmy. I was standing. I should have turned off my camera, Michael. You caught me.
Somebody was.
Busted.
They talk about people, being in. Used to be people were in the couch potato tribe, and now they're in the bowed head tribe. The folks who are always looking
I
down.
can't wait. I'm a software developer, and I cannot wait till I retire, and I don't have to look at a computer 8 hours a day. Cannot wait. I'm so sick of them.
Okay, so we've got we have some announcements. So starting July, we just go once a month. July. So once everyone, Cody especially, I want to make sure you get that message. We go
I
once
know.
a month.
I'm a little disappointed, but I hear you.
And we'll start at 8 p.m. We're figuring people want to be out in the garden later this time of year, so we start at 8 p.m. for the rest of the year. And the Countryside Garden Tour, that's Dirt Magazine's. If you have a garden, you can get it, you can enter it. They didn't list the website here. Oh, I'm sorry. The next, that's not listed here. The next one is the Countryside Garden Tour.
Right.
That's the 29th, and you can go to warwickgardeners.com. It's $25. Support the Warwick Valley Gardeners. There are partners in the Plant Natives Alliance. They're a good group of people, and then again that evening at 4 p.m. they're doing a hike over in Sugarloaf Mountain, and so the Orange County Audubon is working with the Chester Conservation Advisory Council. Apparently there's some grassland birds that are kind of rare to see, and so you might get to see those with the Audubon Society. I used to think that the Audubon Society was for the birds, but it turns out that they also do a lot of good land protection too.
They do.
And then our Sustainable Warwick Pollinator Pathway Committee, we'll have a volunteer. That's tomorrow. starting at 9 a.m. We'll be at Mountain Lake Park. We cleaned some Oriental bittersweet out from underneath a cedar tree last time. And this time what we'll do is sort of retrace ourselves and see what's grown back in there. And then we'll move on to the next problem in the park. We work with the park ranger, the recreation director, Sam Walter, who used to be a park ranger. There'll be several of us out there. It's a good time. Please come dressed to prevent your getting infected with poison ivy or ticks. Or do your best in those regards. Does anyone else have other announcements?
Well, I would say that, we do have every Thursday, we're going to do at our community garden, a crop swap, where if anyone has any extra stuff, like Sarah was saying, you could bring, when all of a sudden, when you have 10 zucchini in one day and you're sick of it and you made all the zucchini pancakes and zucchini bread you can think of, come down, then hopefully someone might have something else, and then we could exchange a little, just trying to get that going every Thursday until the end of September from 6 to 7:30 at 13 Poplar Street. We'll be doing that. And then I think a really good event, if Sarah, I don't know if you want to sign up, they have the Dirt Magazine Kitchen Garden Tour. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
That's
you're
on.
gonna pass on that. I mentioned it to the group. We
No.
did it a few times and it's a little more work than I'm willing to put in.
Yeah, you got to be there. It's July 28th, Sunday, but it's
Yeah.
really, you could either sign your gardens up for it, Dorothy, or you could pay a certain amount of money and then, they give you a map, just kind of like the countryside garden tour, and it's great. And then at later that day, they have a really nice event with in Chester where they hand out best community, that's more fun. And then, just basically get to meet other gardeners. It's a really nice day. So that's Dirt Magazine Kitchen Garden Tour on July 28th, Sunday.
It's a nice event. When I
Yeah,
mentioned
it
it
is.
and the fact that we had to get the garden like holiday ready and people had to be at the garden those hours, everyone did that, looked the other way.
Cody, what about you? You've got a beautiful garden. Would you want to join the
Cody.
Dirt Garden Tour?
Well, I will be in Europe.
Ah, good for you.
Yeah. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
Who's going to watch your beautiful garden when you're gone?
I am passing that responsibility off to a handful of friends.
Okay.
If anybody's volunteering, let me know. Just kidding.
Yeah. Right.
So, how did everyone's garden do in the hot weather? We had that, it was like suddenly brutally hot. I noticed that we had so much rain that some of the plants, even when it got hot, they didn't look like they needed water, and I didn't water them, and they did fine. So really well-established plants, the ground was so wet from before that they went through the whole thing fine. The other stuff that I was trying to get going, I was watering regularly, once or twice a day sometimes.
Well, I of course ran the irrigation. I only really had to run it 2 or 3 times. I do different sections. The irrigation has zone valves and there's not enough pressure to do everything at once. So the plants that had been most recently planted, I ran irrigation, and when I ran it for a full day. And that's where the straw really and the Agribond really helped keep the moisture in. So, we came through it fine, but it takes some thought and advanced planning and watching the weather.
I agree with Michael. I think I did minimal watering, if any, because I think the ground, the moisture level in the soil was so high because we've had a wet spring. But I do have a bunch of containers in my backyard garden and at the community garden. And what I've been using is they sell them on Amazon. They're these clay spikes that you can put into the container. And then you can take like a 2-liter soda bottle or a wine bottle, whatever you prefer. And then you fill it with water, you tip it upside down, you put it in the spike. And since it's made of terracotta and it's not coated, it acts as a reservoir and slowly releases it. And that helps me a lot with the containers from having to run up there and water them every day. I can let them go 3, 4, sometimes even longer days without having to water. And they're cheap. They're fairly inexpensive. I think you buy them by the 10-pack, and they're like maybe 2, 2.25 a spike. A couple of them broke, but overall they're good. And it's just to prevent you from having to worry about your containers if you can't get up there, you can't get the container. You know, I don't know if a lot of people use containers. I kind of try to mix. And at home I use a lot of containers because I grow a lot of mint, and I have to containerize it or it'll go crazy.
Where do you get those spikes?
Amazon. I can let me see if I can look it up while we're talking, and I can send a link. But they're just terracotta. They're just like terracotta spikes that terracotta watering spikes.
Okay.
And like I said, they're not that expensive, and they really do a good job. There's also those things called I can't pronounce them, olas or oyas, which are like basically terracotta vessels that you submerge into the soil of a container, or you can put it in actually into a raised bed or anything, and then you fill that with water directly. You don't have to put another container in there. I'll send the link. I'll try to send a pic. Yeah, I'll send a picture of what they look like. If I can do that.
If you could just put a link in the chat, that'd be good. One of the questions here is,
Yeah.
how did the gardeners fare in the heat?
Well, our garden, we work on 2 specific days a week, Sunday and Friday mornings, unless we have what we like to call an emergency session, because something has to be done. And we had several weeks where it was rainy, so we didn't work. And then when this crazy heat started, I told people one Friday we just completely called it off, and I put in the message that, you know, I didn't expect people to come, and if you had any type of health issues, blah, 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 because most of our group is in the 50+ range, you know, please don't come.
50 plus, 60 plus, come on, 70 plus. You guys are okay. 50 plus.
Yeah, we have a few younger people, but we have many people who started 13 years ago, and we weren't children then, so we have to be.
Yeah.
We have to be conscious of this.
I shifted my time that I went out and worked in the garden.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I shifted the time I went outside. I only went outside up until 8 o'clock in the morning. And then I stayed inside the rest of day and evening.
Yeah. Gillian has a question. Does anyone have feral cats or suggestions for chipmunk abatement? There's actually a cat. I don't know if it's exactly feral or if it lives in someone's house or part-time in somebody's house. It shows up in my yard and garden and sits and waits for mice. So it's
I used to have a cat that was an indoor-outdoor, and she had spent the first year of her life as an outdoor cat, so she never really was going to be one of those cats that acclimated indoor. And we also had a feral that would hang around the house because he liked Bella, and never had a chipmunk problem. And she died 2 years ago, and up until last year, the feral cat was still coming around. And now he's gone. I'm presuming he probably passed away, but the chipmunks are outrageous this year, and they're ravaging everything that I've got in the garden. So the feral cat question was kind of tongue in cheek, but I can't think of any ethical way of getting rid of the chipmunks.
Well,
They're getting under the foundations is the problem. It's not just the garden. It's,
You know, we used to have a lot of them in the village, but that's been pretty much under control because you're not allowed to feed them. And most of them have been fixed. But I grew up, you know, in the country, and we always had one indoor cat and a group of outdoor cats. So I would say, if you have some kind of shelter, like a shed or something they can go in, like across the street, the neighbor has a cat that lives on my porch half the time. They never take the cat inside. So you could get a cat from the Humane Society and just feed it and keep it outside because they live fine outside.
If
And I get rid of them because I have a standard poodle that chases everything.
Ah.
Or you get a dog, which is a more expensive proposition.
just one caveat with having outdoor cats is, if I may interject here, is that they kill billions of birds every year throughout
Oh
the
yeah, I forgot
country.
about the bird problem.
And
Yeah,
rabbits too. We had one that killed a rabbit's nest, got into a rabbit's nest and tore it apart.
yeah,
Bunny
and they don't just kill them because they're fed, they're looking for entertainment, so they disable it by injuring it, and they cause enormous suffering and terror, and they stretch it out for hours because it's a toy to them, and the poor thing suffers horribly. It's not a death I would wish on anyone. So I keep my cats indoors so that they don't do that. There must be there are humane traps that you can actually trap chipmunks with, and I bet you peanut butter is one of the
and then where do you put them?
Then call the DC and ask them if you can relocate them.
Well, you can't actually. We had a problem with that in the garden, and somebody was going to move it, and there are strict laws. You cannot move. There's up to five. If you get caught moving an animal, you can get fined $5,000 by the DEC. And the reason is, first of all, that they don't want you to make your problem somebody else's.
Right.
Number two is you could be spreading diseases to other areas. Number three is there's four main reasons. If you go to the DC website, it'll actually give you the reasons, but you can't really, that's really not allowed according to DC.
Okay, I was just going to say you could ask them if there's a place. Otherwise, it's an inhumane trap, just a mouse trap that'll dispatch them quickly rather than, over hours, and feed it to the vultures.
Unknown caller.
What the DEC suggests is actually, if it's not a endangered species, is to take care of it yourself on site. So like if you had a woodchuck and you caught a woodchuck in a trap, you can't transport it. They say just, dispatch of it. Yeah. However, humanely and quickly. I mean, that's, you don't want to torture it, but you want to put it out of its misery. So.
Well, does anybody else have other questions we should go over this evening?
I have a question, actually. I have a fellow gardener who, I don't know how, but she's in a position where her zucchini are actually overwatered, like terribly overwatered. Does anyone have there? I think that if they don't recover within the next couple days to a week tops, just rip them out and start new. Does anyone have any suggestions on what to do when you find yourself in a situation where you've overwatered your plants to the point where you stick your finger into the soil and it's like mud, and the plant's showing signs. It's not like it's mud and the plant's happy. It's the plant's showing signs of stress.
How did she get that way? How did it get that way?
It's controversial. I think she's sharing a plot, and I think what happened is the other person was watering it. That's what she claims. So, two people were watering it without the other one knowing, and whatever, it got to the position where like the zucchinis are literally like drowning. So
I would replant them because
that's what I think too.
Zucchinis grow fast. I mean, I've overwatered container plants, or I've pots I have around the house, somehow I've managed to leave soaking too long, and what happens is the roots suffocate and the roots die. You can tell with, like, you pull the plant out and you see the roots are gone. But the plant in the ground, you can't, but zucchinis grow so fast, I wouldn't mess around with it. Just rip them out and put new ones in. They'll grow in no time.
I think I agree I agree with you too. I think it's not worth trying to save a zucchini
No,
plant.
No,
It's
not
the-
zucchini.
Yeah, and the fruits are rotting off. It's yellowing. If you tug at the stem slightly, it's got a little give to it. It shows all the signs of like overwatering.
You
It's
sure it's not
growing.
the worms in the stem?
No, this is like the whole plant,
Oh,
the whole plant, and it's every plant. So
okay.
and the soil is like muddy. It's really wet. So I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't even check for the worms. I'm thinking like this is all indications. Believe it's like just overwatered. So, and we have clay soil up there too. So, I have a friend who lives in Massachusetts. He lives by the Cape, and he has to water like every day or every other day because his soil's so sandy. But we don't have that situation here.
Well, folks, everyone talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. Actually, collectively, we are doing something about the weather, isn't it? It's just that we're doing maybe too much of the wrong thing. But anyway, this is the weather report for the week that Christy put together. Do people like when I do that monthly chart? Is that useful? Of course, it's all, it ends up being what it is. Yeah. And does anyone have any final closing comments, questions, or suggestions for the common good?
I'm going to miss everyone for 2 weeks.
Thank you. Keep on growing. I have one question. Sally, why is your where do you get the hotcakes from? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
The signs are selling like hotcakes. That's
Okay.
Ah,
I thought there was a more interesting backstory to that one.
yeah. I wish it was a little sexier.
She actually didn't type that in herself. Someone typed it in for her.
Ah, I see.
Yeah,
Setting her up.
Sally doesn't know how to do that.
Well, great seeing you guys. Good gardening until next time.
Thanks. Have a
bye,
good night.
everybody.
Take care,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.